I have just a couple of remarks. Actually, it looks like a lot more than I have, but I made a couple of announcements about this. The press conference was one, and then presenting it to the committee was another, and if I might, I'd like to share them with you. This was on January 13th, 2009, when in a press conference I said, "Today I have submitted to the Reviser of Statutes an act to end discrimination in civil marriage and affirm religious freedom. This bill codifies civil marriage, eliminates discrimination in marriage, affirms religious freedom, and recognizes the lawful marriages from other states." And I went on to say that recently, while I was home, I was asked to participate in a ceremony designed to honor Dr. Martin Luther King as we neared the anniversary of his birth. School children from the various schools on Mount Desert Island had been asked to write their dreams and, by extension, their hopes on paper. These papers, more than 300 in total, were presented to me and to Representative Elsie Flemings as well. I accepted them and then handed them off to a group that was carrying them to Washington, so that when President-elect Obama was sworn in, that he would have them on his desk to remind him of the tremendous job before him and before all of us, of always remembering our dreams and of always having hope that things will be better. There were half a dozen or so students making the presentation to me. They represented all of the schools on Mount Desert Island. I asked one of the students if she would mind reading what she had written as her dream. She was a bit nervous. There was a television camera there, and there were grown-ups standing around with writing pads and notebooks, steno pads. But she took a deep breath, and then she read, "I dream of a time when people won't make fun of others because of the clothes they wear or the way they talk, when we can all treat each other with respect." The words of that 7-year-old girl, uncluttered by expectation, unaffected by cynicism, undimmed by age, words of pure truth, jumped into my heart then, and I hope they've made their way into your hearts now. We were there to remember one king, but I remembered another who was brutally attacked and aggrieved just as Martin was. And in spite of that, and with simple and humble eloquence, he said to the world, "Can't we all just get along?" That, in its simplest essence, is why I sponsored this bill to end discrimination in civil marriage and affirm religious freedom, and why I asked everyone to reach for their dreams and hold on to a hope for a better future. I then went on to talk about the bill to the Judiciary Committee in April of the same year. I won't read all of it, but I started by saying, "I've enjoyed many wonderful days representing the people of my district and of Maine. I've sponsored legislation that I know will benefit Maine and her people for generations to come. Today is one of the most meaningful days of my legislative career. Rarely do we as legislators have the opportunity and the privilege to introduce legislation that so wholly corrects discrimination and provides the means for us to move forward as a civil society bound by laws. Every day I feel the responsibility of doing the people's business, but never have I felt it more than today." Thomas Jefferson said, "Laws and institutions must go hand in hand with the progress of the human mind." Laws and institutions must go hand in hand with the progress of the human mind. And it is my deeply held belief that the progress of the human mind in this state and in this country does not tolerate discrimination, does not tolerate social injustice, my time must be up, and does not tolerate hatred and bigotry. The progress of the human mind does not tolerate homophobia. The progress of the human mind does embrace, promote love and understanding, compassion, fairness, freedom, and liberty for all. And so it was with those remarks that the bill was introduced into the legislative process and had all of its debate. And then on the floor of the House, as Jim can attest, and certainly on the floor of the Senate, there were more remarks made. And I don't know if I have been any prouder of the legislative process than I was on that day on May 6th, I believe, when we finally voted it into law. It was a great day. We are at that point, and we now have less than 60 days left to continue to resolve that we all must be created and must be treated equally. There are those among us still who want to take that away. And it will be that vote in November which will affirm what we have set out to do. And that's really why we have asked you to come here, why Peter has asked you to come here, and why Dawn is going to ask you about something else. So I'm really pleased to be able to, represent this district. I truly, truly am. I'm in the, what do they call it, the lame duck, I never really knew why, portion of my legislative...
Term limited out. Hopefully Jim might take his place.
Jim has stepped up and is a candidate for my seat. I hope that you will give him very due consideration for that. He's a very capable legislator. I'm about ready to go from the who's who list to the who's he list, but that's all right. I've done as much as I can do. Dawn.